What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 128 of Value Town. I'm ChanManV, and today I'm joined, of course, by Jackie. What's up?
Hey, I'm good. Good, man.
I love the shirt, man. You've got that Hawaiian crazy shirt day going.
Yeah, normally on Wednesday I have Wacky Wednesday where
Right.
I've like played X by my viewers, and so
Yeah.
I try and wear wacky stuff. But
Alright.
yeah.
So is the wardrobe
It's quite nice.
Frodan level or no?
Oh no, it's nowhere near Frodan's level. But I would actually like to get more stuff like this. This is pretty much my only like super wacky shit.
Yeah, okay.
I need more.
okay.
I need more.
Well, we're joined today by our guest, Gaara, it's been a while, actually, since we've had you on. So welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, lots to talk about today, and I figured it would be a great time to have you on, Gaara, to speculate about the new expansion, what we think is in store for us. Tomorrow, I believe, is when the big announcement is. So
The announcement of the announcement.
the announcement of the announcements. Well, so I have the topic bar here. We're gonna actually jump around a little bit, given that I decided to rearrange some of the topics. But we're gonna start off with some news, and actually, let's just talk about the expansion first. So yeah, the announcement of the announcement. It's going to be happening in Shanghai. So it's going to be Shanghai time. This is prime time Shanghai time, which is basically early, super early in the morning for us. So I believe it is going to be at 10 p.m. my time. So that's like 3 a.m. your time, Gaara, tomorrow. Or
Okay.
yeah, I believe it's tomorrow. So they're going to be doing some type of expansion announcement. What do you guys think it's going to be?
I think that the timing is very good. I think for an expansion announcement, and the expansion should come out, I think, next month around the 15th. I think it was roughly the same last time. When was it? In March when they announced Ungoro
Yeah.
for April 15th
Yeah.
Right.
or 16th.
Right.
16th, I think, yeah.
So I think they will show a trailer from the new expansion, like what the team will be, like just a normal expansion trailer, and then we will be disappointed when we see the date that it's like still like it was
Okay.
the same last time, right?
Okay, so you think that they're going to have a similar trailer? Hopefully, it's not this crazy Ngoro
no.
set that was like a campsite or whatever. But so they're going to be showing cards, right? Maybe previewing about 15 to 20 cards. I think was what they did last time. And
15 to 20, that's quite a lot.
That's a lot.
Was
I thought there'd be like 3 or 4 or something. Like,
Oh, that's how
they'll
many
show
they
you like
did.
Kazakas and patches and nothing
But wasn't that what
Was
they did
it-
last time? It was a lot last
it-
time. It was a lot
on
last time.
the very first.
Yeah. It
I
was.
thought it was around 5.
No. You guys are not
15?
remembering right. I could have
15
sworn.
is like the half.
Oh no, you know what?
I'd be very happy with 15.
Maybe I'm confusing the last video with the first one. Okay, yeah, maybe it was just 5 or 6. Okay, yeah. But
But they showed really cool ones, I think.
yeah, they showed some pretty sweet ones last time, I believe.
Well,
they
I think wasn't Elise like one of the first cards they showed.
yeah, I think Elise was one of the first one. Did they show the quests at that time? I forget if they showed a
They
quest.
Priest
showed
quest.
the priest quest.
Oh, the
yeah.
priest quest. Yeah. And yeah, the priest quest.
So if they
yeah,
show
great
cool
one,
cards-
guys. Yeah.
If they show cool cards, we can expect that not the entire expansion will look like that.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
1%.
That's true.
I think kind of one reason I can tell that the last expansion has been a really good expansion is that right now I'm not thinking, oh, I'm really desperate for a new expansion. Can't
Yeah.
wait. Like I'm still experimenting with all the kind of cards we've got from the last expansion, and there's still loads of stuff to try out. So I'm very happy there's a new expansion, but
That's why we
I'm
love you,
still
Jackie.
having fun.
And same with Gaara too. Both of you guys, I think, are very good with experimenting with cards and continuing to brainstorm and deck tech and all that good stuff. So it's good. It's great to hear. I mean, for me, it's a little bit like that too. I feel like this new expansion, I feel like going into it, there are things that they can add on, to this last expansion. Maybe improve. Just throwing anything out there. Some of the quests that have not been used at all. That might not be too powerful if they are good, just things like that. I can see them trying to enhance those as well as adding new stuff. Where in the past ones, most of it was like, okay, either you just completely improve a class, or you just like keep improving a class that's already super good, that sort of thing. So I'm very eager to see what they do, particularly we're about to talk about the Q&A, but particularly with like Warlock and Hunter and things like that.
Yeah, I think they did that for the like last expansion, that they made like Kazakus better and Enzov. They added more death elements.
Yeah.
Like when they saw that these gods didn't see that much play, and then they added like new cards.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that they need to be, well, probably one of the most difficult things about this upcoming expansion is it's probably very easy to accidentally make one of the quests too strong. Like Mage, for example. If you give Mage slightly too good stuff, Mage quest could just obliterate everything. And same with various other quests. So that's something I'm definitely going to be looking out for, like making sure the quests are still not too OP.
Yeah, it was almost like what happened with this expansion, where only some of the quests were viable, was mission accomplished, right? Or something that they were maybe hoping for. But I have this feeling that there will be some other quests that become viable, whether it's, maybe it's Hunter, maybe Life Coach eventually will be right with the whole Life Coach or the whole Hunter quest. Or
But which quest feels like balanced when it's viable from all the quests? Like so many people are complaining also about the Taunt Warrior quest.
I think that's viable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely viable, and I felt like it's kind of balanced, right? But a lot of people hate the RNG aspect and how the quest works.
Well,
so it seems very difficult to balance those quests.
Yeah, well, those quests, we're gonna get into this in a second, but we'll talk about it a little bit. I feel like the taunt quest, the warrior quest, it's not exactly the same clearly as like the rogue quest, but in a way, it's like that type of quest done better. Meaning that, if the warrior gets to Sulfuras, generally he's going to end the game, right? And the rogue quest is the same way. If you finish, you get to the caverns below, you're going to finish the game. It's just with the rogue quest, you finish the game on turn 6, turn 7.
I really want to point that out, like how big that difference is. I think the time to complete the quest is so much longer, and you can it gives you time to prepare, right? To draw cards, to set up like, a hand, a board, and a play style. But against a quest from Rogue, oftentimes they complete it on turn 3, and you just can't do anything about it. It's
definitely frustrating. But we'll get into that in a second, because the Q&A is right after this. So expansion, is that what we guys expect? Just about 6 cards? Do you think they'll announce cards throughout the tournament? Because they're doing this right before HCT to get people to watch HCT, the championship. Do you think they'll do some during the tournament too?
I don't think they will, but they might do. Maybe at the end. They'll like show something else.
Oh, you think so? Okay.
What also could be that they announce something cool, like a new feature in the game. I think the chance is small, but Blizzard likes to blow you away sometimes.
Blow you away.
Yeah, like a tournament mode or whatever.
Man, okay, now you're reaching, buddy. You're totally reaching now.
Hey,
they're gonna release 3 new classes.
They kept it secret for so long. Maybe like a new hero portrait or something.
Yeah.
That's
they might say something about the PvE aspect, right? That we actually have an adventure mode in this one too. So they could touch on that also. But the biggest question is what the theme is going to be. Because a lot of people still are speculating it's going to be, or they're guessing that it's going to be Lich King. What do you guys think?
It's hard to, when you look at the last expansion was Ungoro, right? It's such a random thing. And before that it was like Mean Streets of Gadgetzan. So it can literally be anything Hearthstone or Warcraft related. So it's really like a shot in the dark. Lich King is like such a big thing. I don't know. Then maybe they could do something huge like that.
Yeah, I never actually played World of Warcraft, so I don't know much about the lore and about that kind of thing. So I would have no idea.
But like Gadgetzan was just such a random town, on a continent. It's like to make an anti-expansion around that city is just, who would expect that?
Gadgetzan was the little town that was at the bottom of the mountain on Ironforge, right? Like that tiny town by the
Gadgetson
ocean?
was on Kalimdor, is on the Orc
it?
continent.
Oh, okay,
It was
yeah,
like
yeah.
a neutral town.
I'm thinking of a different town. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But it's really
it's been a
like,
while since I played WoW. So
it's so random.
yeah.
But that's what they also said, right? They want to do like cool, fun stuff with Hearthstone, right? Also surrounding the expansions, like having cool teams. So Lich King is maybe. Oh, there also another hint was they said that Whispers of the Old Gods was like the darkest team they will do for a long time, and Lich King is, I think, darker than
Very dark.
Whispers of the Old. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would expect something a little bit more fun.
All right. Well, there goes the Lich King. Guess. Who knows? No,
Dark Knight, new class.
I mean, we'll find out in about 15 hours or whatever. So I guess nothing to really sweat about. It'll be interesting. I can't wait to at least see what the theme will be and even just get a glimpse of it. But yeah, I think you guys think it's still going to be 5 weeks until the thing comes out. I wonder.
Definitely, yeah.
You think definitely? Okay. Wouldn't it be cool if they said, "Hey guys, it's out next week"?
They would never do that, right? That would never actually. Everyone would go crazy. I mean,
They did it
the
once.
hype
They
and the
did it
build-up
once.
is part of the reason to do it, right? The hype and kind of getting people engaged and kind of getting people
Pre-order.
building up the excitement is.
Yeah,
pre-ordering is always 1 month
Yeah.
before, right?
Yeah,
So
true.
it has to be at least 1 month.
True. Let's see if we can get a sale too. That has to do with the new packs, not the existing pack. That would be pretty.
But
awesome.
if you also do the maths, they will release 2 expansions this year, right? And half of the year is already gone.
Yeah,
So...
I mean, it'll be announced at BlizzCon, right? Whatever that third one will be announced at BlizzCon, and then released in December. That's usually what they do. Yeah. So it has to be soon. Whenever it is, it's definitely got to be within or early August, I would say.
Yeah, definitely early August for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. Let's talk about the live developer Q&A that happened on Friday, and Ben Brode and Mike Donay got online with us and answered a bunch of questions. We actually got a question, and even though they phrased it as ChanManV asked, it was supposed to be a Value Town question, but we had there was a ton of questions I was asked. There was a Reddit post that actually summarized a bunch of it, so I figured I would just kind of show that and kind of go through some of the things that they're talking about. So the first thing they addressed was, of course, why nerf Quest Rogue, just given that the timing of the Q&A had a lot to do, or it was the same week as the Quest Rogue nerf. And they said something that was kind of interesting, which was, despite the win rate not being that high, or unlike most other decks that have been nerfed in the past, the win rates and the play rates didn't really line up. Meaning, like, normally when the win rates are super high, the play rates are super high. But in this particular case, the win rate wasn't necessarily super high, yet people were playing it a ton. And that was still making it a problem. So that was interesting.
That frustrated me the most, actually, when I played ladder. Whenever I face a Quest Rogue, I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Like, the meta was so anti-Quest Rogue. Why are so many people playing it? It didn't make sense.
That's true. Yeah, what do you think about that, Jackie? I mean, Quest Rogue, why do people like to play it if it's not winning?
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, it's kind of... I mean, I don't think it was... To be fair, I didn't play that much Quest Rogue, but a lot of people were saying it was like it was quite a high skill cap deck, like, fairly, and I can see why it'd be a fun deck to play, like bouncing everything back to your hand and then suddenly getting 5/5s, like... But it's just so uninteractive to play against. Like, it is literally... You're playing an aggro deck, you're going to beat the Quest Rogue. You're playing anything else, you're going to lose to the Quest Rogue. And it's just, like, just having matchups like that where you know you're going to win or lose is terrible. So it's great they nerfed it, but I actually kind of have a feeling that it might not be dead and gone. Like, Quest Rogue might still be a thing. I don't know. I don't know, man. But maybe slightly slower, because obviously it will take longer to complete the quest.
Right.
But still, you still get the benefit of 5. Everything being a 5/5 is insane. So maybe a slightly slower list, definitely with like Tark Reapers in. I don't know. We'll see.
Also, another thing why so many people could be playing Quest Rogue is because of the counter queuing. Like, a lot of people try to counter queue on ladder just because of the MMR change. You're very likely to face the same opponent you just played against just because of the small MMR difference. And Quest Rogue is such a counter deck to control decks So I can see that a lot of people have a Quest Rogue, you know, as a secondary deck. As soon as they lose to like a Control Paladin, a Control Warrior, Jade Druid, they try to queue their Quest Rogue as a counter into their deck. It's like they're losing still a lot if they don't hit that. But this is maybe why so many people are still playing Quest Rogue. I think.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Jackie. I think that people will just tweak it. The knee-jerk reaction is to not play it, right? Everybody's like, oh, it's done. It's like an extra turn that's like terrible for a Quest Rogue.
Yeah.
But what should be the natural reaction is just to adjust a few cards to make that extra turn not dying because of that extra turn, a lot less likely. So I would not be surprised if there was a new variation of Quest Rogue that is probably more in line with what we want power-wise for Quest Rogue. Still good against control, but is going to be not ridiculous getting the quest done in turn 4.
Yeah, when you look at the most popular version, you already run Igneous Elemental. If you draw Firefly and Igneous Elemental, this is already free of the Fire Plumes.
Yeah.
You only need to bounce back them twice. It's
still good. There's
Yeah.
definitely still scenarios where you can still do it very quickly. But and I guess that begs the question again, should they have changed that? We talked this a little bit, but Gaara, what do you think? Should they have changed the mana cost of the reward? Or did they make the right decision just changing the quest itself?
I actually, at the last DreamHack Summer, I asked a lot of pro players how they would change certain cards. And there were like very interesting different opinions. A lot of say they should make it not a spell, so you can't prep the quest, because that makes it also much slower. Others say they should make the minions 4/4, because 5/5 puts the minions out of range of a lot of AoE spells like Alchemized Circle, Flame Strike. It's like a big difference that they have 5 HP. Also, it makes the push, like you always push damage in chunks, in 5 damage chunks. You only have to charge the face 6 times to kill someone, and if they're 4/4, like it really changes the damage, makes them easier to clear. And something that annoys me the most is that you can't interact with the 5/5s. Like you can't hex them, you can't sheep them.
Yeah, that
you
never
can't
made
silence
sense.
them. Does that actually make sense? It's so weird. Like, does that actually make sense that you can't?
I mean, one thing that I found weird about it is that you can't hex and sheep them, but if they play like an Edwin, then the Edwin can be like bigger. Yeah, it can be like a 12,
exactly.
11 or something. That's one thing I found a bit weird, because surely if they're all 5/5s forever, then it should be.
And another thing they could have done is just every subsequent minion they play is a 5/5, not the existing ones on the board too. And I think if it was subsequent minions, then a lot of this semantics would make more sense. Right now, it's just like, okay, whatever's on the board is 5/5, and then you have all transformation doesn't matter and all this stuff. It doesn't make sense, right? So
that's the definition of non-interactive.
You can't interact.
You can't.
But anyways, okay. So Quest Rogue, we're I guess we can move on from there. It's been discussed ad nauseum. The next thing that I think was interesting, and you guys just jump in if you guys see anything else. I think the next thing that was interesting was their answer to the primordial glyph was kind of hard to understand, but I'm not sure they really answered that one that great. But they did mention something about Freeze Mage, which somebody asked whether Freeze Mage, what they thought about Freeze Mage, and if they thought it was a good thing. Freeze Mage, for those of you maybe just getting into Hearthstone, has been around forever. I mean, it's been here since beta. Like the very first BlizzCon tournament, Breckful played a Freeze Mage in the show match exhibition that they had at BlizzCon. And Freeze Mage has kind of come in and out of the meta, but it's never been just outright gone. It's evolved over time. It used to be crazy powerful, and over time it's just gotten a little bit less powerful, but still played in the championships, still played at BlizzCon. And they did mention one thing that made me think that it could be going away, or they want it to go away very soon, which Mike said that, Freeze Mage is a great deck, but it's been around for a long time. And generally they don't like to see decks hang around for a long time. So I guess my question to you guys is, would you like to see Freeze Mage be disappear, taken away, for whatever that nerf is that takes it away? Or do you still think that Freeze Mage should be a big part of the meta?
I I like Freeze Mage. Like Freeze Mage is like a high skill cap deck, which is good for the game, and it's a fun deck to play, and there's a lot of decision making. So I have nothing against Freeze Mage being a good deck. My issue at the moment in terms of Freeze Mage is that there's a severe kind of lack of heal in the game to deal with the kind of burn that Mage has right now. Like Mage has so much more burn than any other class, and there aren't that many good ways to deal with it. With like not having Reno anymore, there's not that many. There hasn't been many good new heal cards, so that's my kind of slight issue with it. It's just the lack of ways to deal with it.
For me, it's also confusing that they see Freeze Mage as such a big issue. Isn't it true for like a lot of other archetypes, like Mekkatorque? Mekkatorque is also still played. It's kind of the same deck. It's just that a lot of cards got like exchanged, but it's still Mekkatorque, or like Midrange Hunter, or like just a lot of decks, right? And it's just that I don't know. Apparently, Freeze Mage is like such a.
It's not necessarily they say it's an issue. I just think that generally, like the way it sounded coming from Mike was that they like to see things change. And Freeze Mage is one of those decks that has not changed. Has a ton of basic and classic cards in it, so they'd have to change a lot of those cards for it to be completely removed. So
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if it takes a while for it to go away, but it just sounded like that coming from him.
Mage has like the strongest class cards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why they've always been good in Arena, right?
So it will always look like Mage just plays a ton of class cards in every archetype.
Yeah. The one thing, Jackie, that you mentioned is just not having healing across the board to help with it is that even though you can't with all the classes like Hunter or any of those classes, I mean, there are definite counters to Freeze Mage, though, that are very clear and known and people use, like Paladin, right? Paladin's got a ton of ways to heal, and even Priest to an extent. So there are, at least with that deck, there are several ways, I think, to deal with it or to play around it or make it very difficult for the Freeze Mage. Where some of the other ones, it used to be super polarizing. I don't think it's quite as crazy polarizing as it used to be.
They changed also the classes, so they always lack something, right? Druid is lacking heart removal, Rogue is lacking bot clears and healing, and Shaman is lacking healing now. They want to go into a direction that you can identify with the classes as, they can do something better than other classes.
Warlock is lacking everything.
That is true. No, they can draw cards though. They can draw cards.
Yeah, no, I do like the idea of Freeze Mage. Like no other class has like the ability to kind of like freeze your opponent's board. And so it's really good against minion heavy decks. I think having that is good. Like I think having like Frost Nova and Blizzard, for example, are the most annoying cards for a deck that's trying to flood the board.
Right.
But having that kind of answer, and it's just another way to play the game. Like you don't want all decks to do the same thing. So yeah, I agree with what Gaara was saying.
Yeah, and the way you play around it, I mean, there are things that you can do too, right? As an opponent to play against it.
Can I say something more about this? Like Freeze Mage could have so much. Like I think Freeze Mage is in an excellent spot right now. Like the broken things about Freeze Mage were like the Emperor combo, where you could just straight up kill someone in one turn, and like with Icelands and Emperor, or like Mad Scientist was a big problem. Now everything is like so much slower. The damage is much less than before, and like the setups are much slower. It doesn't feel broken.
Yeah, and there's different variations of it. There's the Gunther, Gunther type. We've seen some Exodia Quest types. There's been all kinds of innovations to it, and they're all roughly the same power level, and it's been definitely great to see. And
you can always run Eater of Secrets if you
Eater of Secrets never been as popular in the last 3 months. It's crazy. Yeah,
hate Eater of Secrets.
Okay, well, let's move through some of these other ones. The fledgling in Arena, they definitely did mention that. It seems to be a big issue. They are going to change the drop rate for fledgling, which is great because fledgling is, as much as we think is crazy good in standard, it is ridiculously broken in Arena when there's not as many spells and things like that. Let's see. Rework. Because they mentioned a few things about the ladder. I think nothing too. They're going to rework the ladder. So announcement.
Okay. again.
Yeah, just I think it's more so for all the low ranked players, like to help out with the low ranked, and we've talked about that at times. So it's
Right.
nothing,
Yeah. Okay.
nothing really to go through.
What Blizzard should really do is like, if I'm pretty sure they saw like the fledgling issue, like from posts and stuff very early, but they should respond faster to the community, that the community doesn't feel ignored.
Yeah, I think so too, but I don't know. I mean, sometimes I think it's based on data. Like maybe there's some data early on it wasn't so bad, but then obviously the uproar ended up eventually matching what the community was saying. There's probably been some things where the vocal community, has come out outraged about something, and it actually didn't match the numbers. And
Okay.
they could come out.
that's
And just,
probably-
they could come out and
that's
just
probably
say
the
it didn't
thing.
match the numbers, right? But
I mean, that's probably the same with Quest Rogue, right? Because it had such a low win rate. It's like,
Yeah.
well, people are complaining about it, but it hasn't even got a high win rate, so why should we nerf it, type of thing.
yeah,
But
that's true.
it's probably there's some kind of, after a while, they realize that there are some kind of very polarized stats that are bad for this state of the game. So,
It looks like Hunter and Warlock. Well, actually, the question that we asked, by the way, is that we asked a question regarding Disco Warlock and discard generally, and what they thought of it. Were we going to see some more? It sounds like that they're not. They're going to still play around with it to a certain extent, but they don't want it to be, I think, the only thing a Warlock can do, which is good, because I think the discard mechanic is very, very cumbersome and hard. It will be hard and has been hard for them to design, in a very good way. So that's definitely good. But there was a general question about, with Hunter and Warlock struggling, are they going to see something new in this expansion? And they did say that the new expansion is trying to make, some classes come back instead of improving on classes that are already good, like Shaman, like in the last year with the age of Shaman. So it sounds like Warlock, they said Warlock's been really strong and will be strong again.
Okay.
So
Yeah, did you ask actually if they do this on purpose? Because in the past, like Hunter had like a reign of terror, right, for over a year or like almost 2 years. The same goes for Zoo. Like Zoo was played all the time. That they decide to make those classes now weaker for a while. I don't know if they do that. Like,
yeah, we didn't ask. I don't think anybody asked that specific question, but
I'm not sure. I don't think they would do it on purpose, right? But if something's particularly struggling, then they'll probably give it maybe too much. Like kind of keep giving it stuff, and then it gets better and better, but it's not quite good enough. And then they couldn't suddenly give it too much stuff, and suddenly it's OP.
like Hunter was already the weakest class in GVG with the hand buff mechanic, which was super bad.
well, Hunter's been weak since you were good at Hunter. I mean, you were known for Hunter, Gaara. I mean, seriously, right? It's been
a long time.
it's been bad. That it's been the weakest class, or one of the weakest 3 classes since that time. So,
Since Nux rotated out pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, it basically sucks because its early game isn't as good as other classes, and Hunter can't play from behind. Like Hunter has to play from ahead, and you can't even get ahead in the first place. It kind of sucks.
I mean, they tried with the quest, but for the most part with Hunter, it's the same way. Like if we look back in beta and we let's just say they gave them early game. If we went back to the beta and we looked at them with early game, it'd be the same type of Hunter. It'd be just tempo, bringing them down, and we nowadays we just have a bigger finish than we did way back when. But it's the same play style, and that's the biggest issue with Hunter for me, is that there can't be a class that's just played the exact same way forever. And that's where Hunter's stuck right now. And
they're trying, but not really working.
yeah.
Like they're trying to push this control Hunter archetype, but it's really not working.
They need the Hunter to be able to summon some pets that heal them somehow with bestial healing or something.
And draw some cards as well.
I mean,
Hey, we got Stampede. We talked about Stampede last week. There's some drawing
Gaara,
abilities.
What do you think about Stampede, Gaara? Because we did talk about this last week.
It's too slow. They just ends up first mate you in the face and works you in the face.
Yeah.
When you're gonna play, it's just too slow, right? It's like the other classes have cards that draw you cards that are that have good stats, like Draconic Operative, right? There's so many. It's like Spirit Echoes, right? It's so slow. Like in the beginning, we saw it being played. It gives you so much value, but it's just too slow, right? All the aggro decks just stomp you.
Well, the thing about Stampede though is it's cheap, and maybe
Yeah,
to
right,
your
but-
argument, if they would have made Stampede a body, that might have been a little more interesting.
Also, yeah, but they nerfed like so many cards. Like I think it would work if you had like Unleash Hunter's Mark like it was before, very cheap. Because you have to clear the
Yeah.
board as well.
Right.
Yeah, like I
Else
think the mechanic of Starving Buzzard is actually really cool. Like when you're summoning
Yeah.
beasts to draw a card, it's just
Yeah.
way too expensive is the problem.
Yeah.
I would actually like to see that card buffed, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Oh man, the buzzard days. I remember those days. I really love those days. So that would.
I feel like the timing of the nerfs of some cards was so wrong. Like like Execute was nerfed right after before they introduced Jade Druid. With the same expansion. So Taunt for like Control is already unplayable, and then it's even harder.
The Execute nerf was a good nerf, though. I think
that
it
was
was
a
one of
good
the
nerf.
better nerfs they've done.
That was.
But the thing is that when Execute nerf was needed, it wasn't nerfed.
Sure.
It's kind of the same with Hunter's Mark. Like Hunter is super struggling.
Okay.
But yeah, Hunter's Mark is cost 1 mana.
So the last thing, I mean, there's definitely a bunch of other things. You can look this up. You guys can always see the show notes linked in the post that I put on ChanManV.tv. But last thing is interesting question was Ungoro cards surprised that do or don't get played, and their answer was plants and pyros. So the plants, which plants was that? Is it the Miracle Road?
Shirazim
Yeah,
is the
Miracle
first
Road?
one I would think about.
So they were surprised that it was being played, I guess, because it is being played, right? Pyros is not being played. So
Okay, yeah.
I guess they were surprised at that, which I think it's slowly starting to enter people's minds. We saw it with some versions of the Mage where people are trying to get some value just with it. But in terms of N'Zoth, yeah, I mean, there's too much devolve going around for it to be any good.
Yeah, also there aren't that many other good Death Rattle minions right now. Like right now, there's really not that outside of like Paladin, where you have like Tyrion, and obviously you have quite some good stuff in Warrior. There's not really that many good Death Rattles. And also I don't think Pyros really fits the style of any other mages that are going around like right now. Like most of the mages are like burn heavy, or you just have the aggro secret mage. It just doesn't fit into anything.
Very, very few games come down to just straight up outvaluing your opponent right now.
Yeah.
And like decks where that is relevant, like let's say versus Dragon Priest, for example, they would just steal your Pyros and with Potion of Madness and take it. That's like you can never play Pyros in that matchup, for example.
Right.
And it's just how the meta is, right? The meta is not about just playing Enzov and just outvaluing your opponent. And Pyros is actually it's better to play a Doomsayer, for example, right now as a Pyros on turn 2 because it actually wins you games. And yeah, but you can use Elise as an example as well. I was expecting to run Elise in every single control deck, but it's actually just too slow, and the card is actually insane. But so few decks run Elise, for example.
I still love Elise regardless. it's still really fun, and it will have a place eventually, I believe. Okay, well, why don't we move on to the event that was announced, which was Midsummer's Night Fire Festival. And let me show this real quick. So they tweeted this out, and there's an actual post too. But I thought this video thing was pretty interesting. It's basically a big old poster showing, Ragnaros and just a lot of different entertaining type of fire-breathing demon petting zoo and all this stuff at this festival. So this is Hearthstone's attempt at doing an event, kind of similar to, say, an Overwatch event or something like that. It's hard to do an event without having an expansion in Hearthstone. What can you do? I guess you could have different backgrounds and things like that. But the main thing I think that we should talk about is just that you'll be earning double gold while completing quests during this week, which begins today. So yeah, what do you guys think? It's kind of neat, right?
Yeah, I mean, some people have like obviously loads of times have spoken over and over again about people complaining about Hearthstone being too expensive and that kind of thing. So for them to do this type of thing where people can get more value for their quest or their gold or whatever, it's definitely good, and it will probably encourage more people to complete their quests and play the game.
I think the overall gaming meta game has shifted to doing daily quests. I think it all started with the Facebook mini games. I have so many friends and people that I know that just play games for doing the quests. They log into Heroes of the Storm, do their daily quests. They go into Hearthstone, every single game they just do daily quests. And Hearthstone was really lacking like a lot of daily quests you can do, that are fun and keep you playing the game. There's like so many casual players that just want to do this, and
they don't have
definitely what the community.
They don't really have achievements. Achievements and those daily quests that you're talking about are fundamental things in game design now. It's particularly mobile games. It's like, I mean, if you don't have one, you're crazy, right? So the thing that Hearthstone does is just they don't really have meaningful achievements, and these quests are nice and they get you gold, but they're only the same level, right? They're only like level 1 and that's it. Like you finish it, you get a gold. You finish it, you get a gold. That's it. And this is still the same thing. This isn't changing it. It's just it's rewarding you obviously a bit more as part of the event. Also there's a special tavern brawl too, which is Ragnaros and also a smaller version of him, which I have no idea what that means. But
yeah, I haven't seen that yet, but apparently you can get a new emote or something from playing from Tavern Brawl. Yeah, so really? You can only get this emote from playing this Tavern Brawl or something like that.
I have a $1 billion idea for Blizzard. They should actually expand on the 500 hero wins up to, let's say, 20,000. Okay. When you have 20,000 wins, you unlock this super mega golden hero. Do you know how many people would just grind wins?
Yeah, dude.
Superheroes.
Yes, I've said the same thing like many times. Not that exact thing, but just upping the number and giving at least us something to do, in terms of achieving something.
Yeah, no, I like that, and having like achievements where you can unlock like a new unlock this crazy achievement, you get like a card back. Like a lot of people will be like, "Oh, that's a really cool card back. I'm gonna play my 20,000 Murlocs I need to play to complete this quest."
I don't want a card back, dude. give me like a new hero or a skin or something like that. I'll take that, but card backs are
just anything to do
for me.
Like for the downtime for the next expansion, like
basically just something to aim for, right? Just something to aim for.
just something. Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, why don't we move on to the next thing, which is a teammate of yours, Jackie, in the Wild tournament, the first Wild exhibition championship. I don't know what we call it exactly, but the first Wild tournament that Blizzard has hosted, we had Control from Fate to Karma make it to the finals against Abel 987, and he came up just a little short, man. Ended up losing.
Yeah, it was so sad. But, it was really like I actually watched a lot of the tournament and I was supporting him kind of most of the way because I watch his stream every now and then. He's a really entertaining streamer.
Yeah.
But he basically just destroys Wild. Like Wild is all he plays, and so he's like really really good at Wild. And it was really good to see him do so well in the tournament. Unfortunately, he lost out, but Alb, the player who was against, was really good. So. I would love to see more Wild tournaments because it just gets more like it's a format that people will ignore unless there's competitive incentive. Like competitive incentive just makes more people play it, and it's like Wild is fun. I've played Wild, and Wild is great. So I'd love to see more Wild tournaments.
Yeah, I mean the thing about Wild, I'll have to say is that I did watch some of it, and for the first few matches I watched, it was like, yeah, this is nice, this is refreshing, kind of seeing some of the old cards and the old types of decks back. But by the time I got to the finals, I have to say it was, for one, the finals was just a best of 5, which was like, gosh, guys, I mean, can't we just make it like a best of 7? Like that would have been a little more interesting, given that Pirate Warrior just kills stuff super fast. So like those games are over instantly. But after a while, it's just like, okay, I'm seeing the Pirate Warrior, and then I'm seeing the Paladin, and you start seeing the same thing over again, and then it just becomes the same thing. Like it's the same tournament format. Just what we see in competitive Hearthstone right now, it just becomes the same thing. So that part of it was like, I feel like the Wild novelty is short-lived. And just like anything else, just like when a new expansion comes out, once people have seen the same thing for enough times, then they're just going to get tired of it. And it's the same thing with Wild. It's just with more cards, right? That's the same thing.
I mean, I disagree with that.
Really?
Because I think it's exactly the same as Standard, right? In Standard, people just play the same decks. Like you just see Quest Rogue, you just see Burn Mage, you see Jade Druid. Like it's basically the same in Wild. Like there are going to be the best decks that you do see over and over again. So yeah, I don't see how it's different to Standard in that.
But I feel like back in the days we didn't have the best decks, you know? Like people were playing all sorts of different bad decks. Let's call it bad decks. Right? Don't you feel the same? Like I don't like I was watching like in 2014 I was watching every single tournament like that was streamed always. It just to see what new stuff people are coming up with. It was always like something new. People always came up with new decks, new tags all the time. Like for a long period of time. And now it feels like when they release the expansion, it takes like 1 week to figure out the best decks, and then we will see these decks for like 3 months. It's so different.
But
now,
that's not. But you calling them best decks, I think, is one of the problems with the culture right now, because it's, you know, when we see things like Gunther Mage and other types of decks pop up in tournaments, and I mean, even look at the latest tournament, right? We started seeing quest mages and ramp druids and things still popping up. You know, there's still innovation that's possible. It's just it's not major innovations, but there's still innovations that constantly happen, right?
But the thing is, it's the cards they print. Like if they print cards like Kazakus that are so incredibly powerful, you just are forced to try to make this card viable or might make the best version of the deck. So what happened was like people tried to build the best Reno Lock versions, right? We saw different Reno Locks, but everyone was playing Reno Lock. You can't play Hand Lock for like various reasons, obviously, then have Molten Giants and stuff. But if the Reno Lock player plays Kazakus, I will always be unfavored because the card is just so powerful on its own.
Well, but look at Kazakus now without Reno. It's not even close to that level. I mean, I was watching Jackie play Warlock, right, with Kazakus. It's nothing at the same level as it used to be. So it was more of a combination between having a full heal and then having a crazy powerful control card like Kazakus.
Yeah, I'm just saying like mechanics, like the Jade mechanic, you know? It's so powerful that it's stronger than just not playing Jades in a control deck. Like the quest for Quest Stroke or something like that. You know, it's just stronger than playing an average deck with like basic cards and whatever.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, in terms of kind of people figuring out the best decks after 1 week of the expansion and then just the same decks being seen throughout the whole expansion, I don't think that's been. I think it's been slightly different this expansion because for the first half of the expansion, I don't think many people were playing Paladin at all. Whereas towards the end, Paladin's now one of the best classes and has played like a lot on ladder and in tournaments. So,
which are actually the first most popular decks in the beginning. I don't actually remember.
Quest Rogue, right? Day one with Dog, right? Was
Dog.
huge.
Power Warrior was still popular.
Power Warrior
I think that's become less popular as the expansion's gone on.
I think Hunter was strong for a brief time too, and then Paladin started to take over, and then Priest started to take over, and then the Taunt Warrior too, the Quest Warrior was strong very early too.
Yeah,
so.
We almost play the same deck as from the original version, like the Curator. Only 2 or 3 cards have changed since the beginning.
I mean, perspective check, guys. Everybody that's always complained about control not being a big part of the meta, that is what we have, okay? So, you know, hopefully a lot of those people will not be complaining, including myself. You know, it's like, that's why I'm happy with how it is right now. And the things that we're complaining about is a deck that kills control. So it's kind of funny in that way. All right. Well, anyways, definitely great that Blizzard did a WoW tournament. I hope they continue to do it. I just hope they just come up with some more innovation to it, especially at least make it different than standard tournaments in some way. You know, you don't have to do the exact same formats and things like that. So hopefully we'll see some more soon. But speaking of Blizzard tournaments, HCT Shanghai is going to be happening very, very soon, probably in a day. I think exactly a day or maybe a day and a half. So figured we would take a quick look at just the decks and maybe just our predictions. We don't actually have to go in depth with any of the decks, but what is your prediction as to who is going to win?
Godlento.
Who?
Galento.
Oh, Calento. Godlento. Okay. Gotcha.
Easy.
Okay. So we got a Calento pick there. Is that who you chose for your champion, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing I would say though is I'm kind of quietly supporting X-Hope because I'm pretty sure he's the only person who's in the tournament who's brought Tempo Priest, and I've been a massive fan of Tempo Priest since the start of the expansion. It's probably one of the decks I've played the most, and so I'll be quietly supporting him.
All right, it's that Lyra. That Tempo. Obviously, we did it for Deck of the Week a couple weeks ago. Super good. All right, Gaara, your pick.
Damn, my champion is also Colento, but only because I'm like his oldest sub. And so, so finally I can see him.
Oh, you win a
as, like,
badge. I see how it goes. Okay.
I have to do it.
Okay.
So the
All
biggest supporter. But I think realistically, who has the best chance is Hoy and Muzzy. I'm like very, very impressed by their performance and their work ethic, and also how they play, how they prepare. Their lineups for the last year or so was always like top notch. And I think Muzzy is like a sleeper pick, not for pro players, but probably like for just the average viewer. He's like an extremely good player, but also what I noticed about him is like he doesn't like I don't see the pressure. If he is playing on a big stage, he plays exactly the same as when he's at home, like streaming. It's crazy. He's
What's
really,
funny
really
is that
good.
there was always this insinuation that he doesn't play that way, which I think might have been a misconception because, like people would think that he made misplays, but in the end,
Well,
I think
no,
when he explains it, they were actually not misplays.
Yeah,
So
his
funny.
thinking process is really, really good.
Yeah, it's just
He didn't drop a
next
game,
level.
right, or something like that when he qualified. He won the regionals.
Yeah.
And
He went. Yeah, he was undefeated.
just unbelievable.
It is pretty crazy.
Just
Well,
sweet.
Muzzy's my pick. He was my champion's pick, and I think it's interesting. I mean, the lineups. It's always about what you bring, right, deck wise. And I think Muzzy last, playing the Americas Championship, I think he did have a read that most people didn't, or at least the majority of the players didn't, which was Miracle Rogue, right? He brought Miracle Rogue instead of Quest Rogue because Miracle Rogue performed better against both aggro and control overall versus Quest Rogue just being good against control. So that's kind of the approach that he took. So assuming that he's trying to make a read again, that's the thing I like about Muzzy is he makes reads and then he just builds a lineup based on that specific read. That's usually not what everybody else is doing, and then he'll go with it. And so with this one, he's got the control mage mixed with mid-range paladin, which is kind of interesting, and Jade Druid. Kind of those three together, I think is what makes his pretty unique. Where Colento has like Taunt Warrior and Quest Rogue and Jade Druid, and it's like
Collector is not known for bringing the strongest tournament lineup, but he wins anyways. It's so funny.
He just plays super well, exactly. So he can make up for it sometimes. So a lot of times just the strategy of what decks you bring can be enough. We'll have to see. It's Hearthstone to an extent, right? You're gonna have to see what happens. Surprised nobody picked RDU. Like none of you guys think RDU is gonna take it.
Nah, RDU sucks.
He brought Pirate Warrior, okay?
I love you, really, RDU.
Oh man, RDU never on the show again.
I mean, Adio voted for Adio. Like he's so confident. So that's enough for everyone.
Well, what's interesting about RDU's lineup is he went straight aggro. I mean, it's almost. except for the mage, the burn mage, but everything else is aggro. So,
but his read is clear. Weird.
His read is clear.
It's conquest. Like the format is conquest, and usually what you do in conquest is bring the same, like very similar decks that do the same thing. Like target one specific deck that fits with your ban strategy, or like protect your lineup against one specific deck. Like either you go full aggro or full control usually, and a lot of them just go for random decks.
Yeah,
except RDU.
Yeah, RDU clearly wants to face Quest Rogue. He wants to get 3 wins right off the bat on Quest Rogue, and just kind of get through that. So it's an interesting strategy. It's the part that's always very, very cool to discuss a bit. But we'll see that starting up again. It's going to be like 10 p.m., I believe, on Thursday. So late times, it's the Chinese time zone. So unfortunately for all of us in the West, it's not going to be very great times. But try to catch it if you guys can. And again, that's twitch.tv/playhearthstone. All right, well, let's move on. Let's get into, I guess, what we've been doing this week. Gaara, actually, we'll start with you, and then we'll get into Jackie. Gaara, what have you been doing this week? Anything cool? Any decks you've been doing? Or I know you've been playing Cups, right, today?
Yeah, hardcore. I wake up, stream for like 6 hours, and then I play an open cup, and then I go to the gym, then I go to play more Hearthstone, and I go to sleep, and I do that every day. So I play around 12 to 14 hours every day. My goal is to do at least 50 ladder games per day. Still have to do like 10 today, and I'm like at 250 games this month already.
Like an Iron Man, like a Hearthstone Iron Man. This is crazy.
Yeah, man, that sounds like a pretty strict schedule.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I'll be at around 1,500 ladder games by the end of the month.
That's why we're so appreciative you're on the show today, because I know we're eating into that regimen that's very, very strict. So that's crazy. I don't know how you do it. How do you do it? How do you stay sane?
Dream Week Valencia is coming up next week, right? Mm-hmm. And I have to prepare for that. And it's the last month for HTC. It's just, honestly, it's like the very important part is going to the gym, working out. Like I'm jogging also every day before I start streaming, and I go do weightlifting before I go to sleep. And I noticed that it really boosts your overall amount of work hours, or
or your energy and your
energy,
your stress.
The entire day. It's super important. Mm-hmm. I think it's very, very underrated in esports. I know that a lot of League of Legends teams and CSGO players are forced to do it. It's part of the contract that they go to the gym. I don't know if you know. And I think it's very important.
Wow, it's part of the contract.
Yeah, that
burn 1,000 calories every day.
Stay in shape.
Yeah.
I don't know how strict they are checking out if he's doing his workout.
Yeah. No, you can't get off the treadmill yet. Exactly. Stay on that treadmill.
No Hearthstone until you're done. Done with that 3 miles here. No, that's cool. No, physical activity is extremely important to your health. So
and good diet as well. Yeah. If I eat a lot of bad foods, I really notice it. With Hearthstone is such a mentally draining game, for especially if you do a lot of hours, right? Yeah. And you start misplaying. Everyone starts misplaying after a certain amount of hours, and you try to push that amount of hours you can play with playing as good as possible.
Yeah, gotcha. You can do what Jackie does. He works out while he's playing. He's standing, and he's he's walking. He's definitely getting a workout, burning calories.
Yeah, I got a standing desk. I'm not standing up now, but having a standing desk is great, because obviously when you sat down at the desk, you sat down in the same position for hours and hours, and even if you've got a good quality chair, it's still you're not using your muscles.
Right?
Your back is stiff as heck by the time you're done with it. It's really tough.
Yeah, anyone who's having any back problems, get a standing desk. It's fantastic.
Yes, absolutely.
But my week in Hearthstone, I've been playing Warlock all week. Basically, when I was at Seat Story, me, Tyler, Mitsuhide, Terrence, and Impact all made a bet who can get to Legend first, purely with Warlock. And so we've all just been playing Warlock for the past few days.
Wait, nobody got Legend yet?
No one's got Legend yet. I'm Ball Controller's also joined in as well. I'm rank 3 at the moment. I think Ball Controller's also rank 3.
But that's really impressive.
Yeah, I've tried every type of Warlock deck under the sun. I played Handlock.
Let's take a look at the Handlock. Let's take a look at the Handlock.
Warlock, Kazakus Warlock, everything you could possibly think of. And actually, this is Handlock, and Handlock was actually the deck I probably had the highest win rate with. Handlock was, I think, if you way better than I thought it would be.
I think if you played it through straight, you could be Legend right now. I think you were climbing with it, and then you've been switching around, right, and doing stuff.
Yeah. It's because you think Molten Giant got nerfed. There's no healing Warlock. Handlock must be terrible. But there's actually very little burn in the game outside of Mage. Mage just destroys Warlock. No matter what Warlock you're playing, Mage just destroys you. But outside of Mage, not that many decks have burn. So putting up big taunts, taunting up a Humongous Razor Leaf and that kind of thing, is really good against a lot of decks.
I was actually very close to bringing Handlock to Dreamlake Summer. When I play tested it, it was really good. Because you play tested against the 2 token decks. It's, as Jackie said, they don't have a lot of reach. They're very bot-centric decks. Aggro Druid and Token Shaman were the 2 most popular aggro decks. And in Handlock, you can run double Doomsayer, double Hellfire, Mistress of Mixtures, double Coil, double Shadowbolt. And those cards are very, very good against Shaman and Druid because they rely on the board. So it was really performing really well.
Yeah, I mean, I can actually see it. Like, if you were to bring it, though, you'd probably have to ban Mage, right? Like, if you ban Mage, then I can see Handlock being a thing, right? It's just
Yeah, but I didn't bring it because I'm like, it's Warlock. It must be like I must be high rolling. Like it can't.
yeah,
be
probably.
So
like,
this
I can't be winning
version,
so much.
I'm showing doesn't have Molten. Like when I was watching you, Jackie, you were playing Molten, and I mean, what was really cool is that I felt like you were able to go really low with your health, and then just put up that crazy giant taunt wall, and then just win games at the end, or get your Jiraxis right and win games. So
Yeah, I mean,
what happened
Molten,
here? You've changed it some, right?
it's yeah. I basically put in the two Mistress mixtures instead of the two Moltens, and the Moltens were like, if you get them off, it's insane. Like you can, because obviously if you're at 5 health, it costs 0 mana, so you get down to like super low health against aggro druid or something, and then you slam your Moltens and taunt them up, and it's basically the same as it used to be in Handlock. It's insane tempo, but you just have to do it at a lower health total. But I found myself just the Moltens were just sitting in my hand way too often. Like any control matchup, you just never get low enough to play them. And aggro matchups, even against like aggro druid and token shaman, like because they actually have a lot of burst. Like they have savage roar and bloodlust, and so it's pretty hard to actually get yourself down to a low health total without being kind of burst down and then taunt up. So I just wasn't being able to play them enough.
Okay. Well, watching you play it, it definitely looked like it was strong. And Gaara now is confirming too that it's really strong.
The cool thing about Warlock is that you can run so many gimmicky tech cards like without really having a drawback. Like if you run them in Paladin, you automatically need to include card draw, right? Like the more gimmicky, like if you run Hungry Crabs in Control Paladin, you have to run Acolytes and Lay on Hands, else you run out of cards. But in Warlock, you can really abuse the life tab. Like you can run Owls, Spellbreakers, you can run everything in Control Warlock.
Yeah.
So it's actually really cool.
Okay, well, we were talking about Deck of the Week this Monday. Jackie and I did the mini show with the patrons, and I said that we're going to announce which deck we're going to do this week. We're going to do this one. We're going to do this deck this week, the Handlock. So I'll post it up on the Patreon soon. So definitely check that out. We'll talk a little bit more about the Patrons, but yeah, I mean, I think Warlock is good. That's kind of why we themed this episode Warlock. But why don't we take a look at some of the other ones? You have the Kazakus one too, right? That you played.
Oh yeah, I mean, I played. This deck is. It's not.
This is Jackie's
amazing.
Wacky creation. This is officially Jackie's Wacky creation.
Yeah. Okay. So I played literally every possible type of Warlock you can imagine. I've played like Murloc Zoo, Discard Zoo, Egg Zoo, Handlock, Kazakus Lock, Quest Warlock, Elemental Warlock. I played literally everything.
Did you do Savisa's Blood Bloom?
I actually didn't do that one.
The only good version.
But what I would say about Kazakus Warlock is that it was the one deck when I thought, initially when I started playing it, I was like, well, this is just going to be terrible, but let's try it out anyway. But then I ended up like going on win streaks with it and like thinking, wait, why am I going on win streaks with Kazakus Lock? Like, what's going on here? And I mean, obviously Kazakus itself is insane, and the fact that Warlock doesn't have access to good healing really, whereas Kazakus you can get the armor, which can make huge impacts. Also, you can Blood Bloom the Kazakus potion, which is pretty insane. And I'd say one thing about Warlock in general is that I think Warlock just has the best AoE out of all the classes.
Clearly.
It has so many downsides.
That's very overlooked. Yeah, I agree.
Clearly, yeah.
Like, there's so many downsides to Warlock, but AoE is very good. And so if the meta is very kind of token shaman, aggro druid heavy, then Warlock's pretty good. It's just terrible against mage.
And Pirate Warrior.
Yeah, I'm Pirate Warrior.
So
everything that has reach.
Health seems to be like that magic missing link element for Warlock just to be broken. And we kind of saw it with Reno Lock and that dominating for a long time. And now that Reno's gone, now we've seen it kind of take a hit, and it seems like it's missing something, right, to become super good. Do you guys feel like that or no? Or do you think just little bits and pieces of the healing that they have available to them, like Siphon and Earthen Ring and Mistress, is enough to overcome that?
I thought it was on purpose, because if they would have replaced Reno with another strong healing card, then we would still see Reno Lock being played all the time. We would just call it Kazakus Lock, right? Because it's still a very, very powerful deck. But this is what Blizzard is trying to do with every expansion, right? To that we go away from existing archetypes and play the new archetypes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think, I mean, that is kind of the kind of theme of Warlock, right? The kind of like, you're always worried about your health, like because of life tap and your flame imps and pit lords and that type of thing. But if like, say if Warlock had an anti heal-bot type card, then I think Control Warlock would be a good deck. Like after playing loads of Warlock decks, I think the more control style is better than the Zoo style because of just how strong the AoEs are, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right now, it seems like there's not a great place for it, and it's great that we're talking about these decks right now, just because clearly there is some place for Warlock right now. It's just it might not necessarily be the best aggro deck or be the best control deck or be the best mid-range deck, but it's still decent, solid. Might just be missing a couple elements that might be coming out in this new expansion to make it pretty good.
Yeah, I think if Warlock got 2 good new control cards, I think a Control Warlock would see play.
Okay. Yeah, those of you listening to, you guys can check out the decks by going to ChanManV.tv. Just look for the episode 128. You can see the show notes listed there, the links, and then you can get to these decks. But some interesting cards maybe to list in this one was, I think Tar Lurker was pretty interesting whenever you'd play it. Cabal Trafficker. Freaking love that card that never gets
I love
played.
Cabal Trafficker.
It never gets played, and it's like
another thing I would say about Warlock is the demons just aren't good enough. I wish there was more strong demons. So things like Cabal Trafficker and like if you get play Kazakas and get the add 2 demons to your hand, or even the 3-mana spell that's add 2 demons to your hand to basically draw 2 demons from your deck. Like that could see play if there were more kind of powerful demons. I'd like some more powerful demons to be released, please, Blizzard.
You know what demon I get every time is the 5/5. That damages you 5 every time you play a minion.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Man. That's a killer. That's definitely a killer every time I get it. But yeah, definitely give this one a try too. This one, if you like the Kazakus Reno Warlock without Reno, then this is definitely something to give a try for sure. Okay, well, right now, why don't we give a quick shout out to some of the folks that are listening on iTunes. A lot of people might not know that Value Town is available to listen in audio form on iTunes as well as Google Play and SoundCloud. So you can check out all those different avenues. And SoundCloud is soundcloud.com/ChanManV. And then iTunes, you can just go and search for Value Town or search for Hearthstone, and it comes up. And one way that you can actually help the show out is by leaving a 5-star review if you actually like the show in a nice comment. And we've actually got a couple people who have left a new review or changed the review, which is even better. So let me give a shout out to Kunja Sears and then Call Me Mr. J. And I'm just going to talk about Call Me Mr. J because, a while back he left a very negative review on the show. And but he made a lot of good points. That's the great thing is when people make good points. It was pretty strong, but I can take it. Okay, but he left some really good strong reviews, and then recently he switched his review just based on some of the things we've been doing recently. So definitely really appreciate that. Obviously all reviews have an effect on all of us, but when we see somebody with a change of heart, I think it's really cool, and it just reinforces the fact that we're doing some good things on the show or some good changes. So makes us feel good, or at least makes me feel good that we're headed maybe in a direction that more people would like. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to the patrons that support our show. Value Town is 100% supported by the Patreon right now, so you guys are the ones that make this show happen. Without you guys, we wouldn't do the show. Like we wouldn't be able to do the show, or it wouldn't be worth doing the show. So always want to give a little bit of time on the show to give a shout out to some of them. And, we try to get to different people each time, except for our legendary producer, Mike T, because he deserves that shout out every single week for being, our top patron. But others, Gary D, David T, Jim G, Graham S, 2 Kid, Dr. Rurnat, Lenny P, Lance B, P Floyd Guy 84, and Evie. Thanks so much, guys. And if you guys that are listening want to support the show, go to patreon.com/valuetown and make a pledge today. $0.25, $1, any of those things helps us in a huge way. If everybody that listened to us gave us a dime or a quarter each episode, we'd be doing this forever probably. So just think about it like that. If you guys can, manage it. I know everybody has tight funds and things like that, but if you can, we'd greatly appreciate it. All right, next up is our segment